Welcome to the Dean Blechman Show, live from Long Island. Free-flowing talk with a charismatic, down-to-earth host. Join Dean as he interviews and chats freely with his guests, ranging from superstar athletes to politicians, industry titans, and everyday folk with fascinating life stories. Dean educates, entertains, and most of all, touches people's lives. You're listening to the Dean Blechman Show, live from Long Island.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dean Blechman Show. February 10th, 30 degrees out here in Talk Long Island on the North Shore, and just getting over 15 inches of snow. Day before, it was 60 degrees. But I'm really excited today because here in the studio with me is the CEO and owner of Plycon Transportation Group, Chris Pliaconis. Chris, how are you today?
I'm well, Dean. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. How did you recover from the storm or during the storm?
We did our team did our normal clean out.
Okay.
A lot of plowing, a lot of shoveling. We got to be prepared to keep the trucks on the road. But we got it done. Good.
Now, listen, I've known you quite some time. I would think a man of your stature, you don't see a shovel that much. You probably have a plow.
I do have a plow. Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have a plow, a snow blower, payloader. We have enough equipment to clean any kind of snow that comes our way.
Good. Family's good?
Everybody's good.
For all our listeners today, let me just mention that Chris Pliaconis is a innovative entrepreneur with tremendous business insight. I thank you Chris, for making the time and bringing your inspiring story and the story of one of the country's biggest transportation companies to our airwaves. I really appreciate you coming here today.
I thank you for having me.
You bet. And I want everybody to know that you're in for quite a conversation about true American entrepreneurialism and the greatest business lessons that Chris has learned. So on that note, Chris, Plycon Transportation Group, before we go to the early stages, the very beginnings, how it was formed, we're going to get into that next. But just initially, describe what is the company? What is Plycon?
Plycon is a moving company. We provide a service to high-end clients, from moving one thing to a complete household to a truckload. We're kind of hands-on, a family business, and we pretty much cover the entire country. And most of our clients have multiple homes, and we're able to serve them nationwide.
Wow, amazing. Really amazing. I mean, I see your trucks everywhere on the road.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing, huh? So listen, starting the business, I know that you and I have somewhat similar to entrepreneurial backgrounds and family business histories. I know that during my days with Twin Lab, maybe my family was just a little bit bigger. There were mom and dad, and there were 5 brothers, me being one of the 5. So we have kind of some histories, some similarities here that makes today's show even more exciting for me.
Yes.
But let's go back to the business starting, how it started. I know your father, Arthur, was the visionary, that it started. I think he even, I think at one time he was, did he drive for Mayflower?
Yes, he did.
But why don't you just share with the audience the very beginnings of how the company started right from the beginning?
Well, my dad was a truck driver for Mayflower from the mid-50s until the late 70s. And he had created a clientele within the agent that he worked for. And they requested him quite often. So he decided that it was time to go on his own. and he had three sons that he wanted to include in his vision. And he knew he would have a great team because he had raised us with the quality of helping people. And the moving business is a helping business. People are in need for our service. So that being said, he was in his late 40s, and he decided he wanted to go out on his own, and he borrowed some money and bought a truck, and the rest was history.
Wow, it sounds pretty parallel, very similar to the same story with my dad as well. Very, very similar. How about mom? Was she in the business?
Yes, she became the on-site estimator and used to go to the homes and do the estimates. And Dad would do the physical hard labor. And my older brother at that time, Dean, similar name to yours.
Very, very unusual. Very rare do I meet anyone with the same name as me, Dean. It's he must be a good guy.
He's a great guy.
Great guy.
Great guy.
Good.
So Dean was in Florida at the time going to school. And Dean was starting up the business in Florida while my father was running the business here in New York.
So as the business from inception, was Dad and Mom in the business for a while before the sons came in? I mean, how long was the business operating before the three sons came into it?
Well, the business started simultaneously with Dean. Dean was, by the time my dad started the business, Dean was just starting college. So as Dean's work after school was to help my dad, and my father knew he kind of had a crew already set, and the middle brother David was coming up out of high school too to go down to Florida for college. So my father knew he had a workforce right away, instantaneous, that he could trust in Florida. And I was a little later down the road. I was much younger than my two brothers.
So how did each one of the three brothers, I once again parallel looking to what I experienced with being one of five brothers. How did each one of the sons pick their role? I mean, I find not only the unbelievable entrepreneurialism of you and your entire family, but I find there's a great inspiring story here about Chris Pliaconis that brings that intrigue to that the airways has to hear about how not only being in business, but how family makes it work. How it's such a great story. So, sometimes you hear one family member in businesses, sometimes you hear two, three, but with mom and dad and hearing five, or the Blechmans when it was seven, that's off the charts.
It's off the charts.
People want to know, how do you make it work? So I just want to ask you, how did each one of you really fall into your roles? How'd that all come about?
Well, I think we kind of fed off each other's dynamics. We all understood the goal, and the goal was to satisfy a customer. Our work ethic was all the same. It was instilled in us from the beginning. As we were much younger, growing up, our dad would take us on the truck and take us on for the summertime, and we go on trips and explore the country, understand what his job was, and just out of respect for my dad and my mom, we kind of all just knew what the goal was and wanting to be the best at the business.
Chris, everybody on a lot of these shows here, I've approached about 60 shows now. And it always, most people don't know where Setauket is. And in a lot of conversation, I mention my other home is Setauket Starbucks that I hang out at. And you and I, over the years, that's how we became acquaintances, was over the years running into each other at Setauket Starbucks. Well, listen, I got to tell everybody about a little bit about a personal story about Chris Pliaconis. That is just amazing. Even before I met him, it was quite impressive that every week you would pull up the Starbucks that Chris pulls up with either a Bentley, a Maserati, a Ferrari, or some other type of unbelievable luxury car that Dean Blechman, everybody's faces in Starbucks would be just glued to the windows. Who's this rock star or icon coming up, walking into Starbucks? That amazing. Anything you want to share about? Pretty cool, Chris, to be in a business and to have a different car every week.
Well, I have a passion for the automobile, and that's where I put my investment into the automobile. Growing up, I always liked the automobile.
Yeah.
At 16 years old, I remember putting one of my pickup trucks in a truck show at the Nassau Coliseum and winning the show, and all these older gentlemen couldn't understand how this young kid just won a national show, but it was fun.
You go to a lot of trade shows?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
How often are the trade shows?
They're probably once, twice a month.
Yeah. A lot in Vegas?
California's a big spot. Florida's another spot.
I used to love that. You know, I used to love going to the different conventions. I mean, once again, when I came into the business the summer of '79, my 4 older brothers were all inside in different capacities. You know, they all had a chance to pick their role. So when it was time for Dean, when I chose to summer of '79, the company was really small then. And I'm really enjoying this show because we really have a lot to share, similarities here. But when I got out of school, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do, what role I was going to play in the company. And I surely knew that I wasn't going to be a bean counter. I wasn't going to be a CFO. I didn't like lawyers, so I wasn't going back to legal school, and I wasn't going to be the lawyer for the company. So obviously here doing this show, all my brothers realized that the perfect role for me was to be the first salesman for the company. So that's how it all started. Put my first product in my bag and went around the country and sold, did conventions, built sales forces and all that. Maybe that's why I love doing the show every day.
Well, you certainly have the personality for it.
So a lot of similarities over there. But you guys have, how big is this industry that you guys are in?
Oh, it's a multi-billion dollar industry.
Approximately how many billions?
I'm going to say in the U.S., probably 20 billion.
Wow. So you would you say that a bulk of your business is from high-end moving or luxury automobile moving?
Most of our business is still furniture. Our automobile division is about 10 years old, so it's still growing.
I mean, when you guys when you guys first started, I mean, the whole marketing or even your first customer, I mean, what was that? How did that one moment? It's almost like last weekend with the Super Bowl. It's always that going across the 40-yard line and Julian Edelman makes that unbelievable football catch that everybody said, wow. And that catapulted and that turned around Super Bowl 51 and Brady to make that comeback. What was that? Wow, that one either order or customer, what was that one moment in time that you would say really catapulted to the next level the company?
I don't think there's one particular order or customer. It's different plateaus that you approach as you're in business. And when you get to those plateaus, there's always another level you want to reach when you have the competition in you and want to keep the growth going, not stay stagnant. And I think part of the latter part of the growing is the best part of the business. It's gives you goals, and when you reach those goals and hit those plateaus, it's a great feeling.
You've unbelievable the plateau that I mean, how hard in this day and age it is to start a business, to execute a business, to build a brand. I mean, your brand is just phenomenal.
The brand is very important. Maintaining the excellence of the brand is that's where all the work is, and that's where all the passion and pride come in. And we have a great team with us, and people been with us for quite some time that have helped us grow, and we appreciate it. The customers appreciate it. It's just it's a great ride we're on, and we just want to continue the ride. And it's like a roller coaster. You have your ups and downs, and you just stay with it, and hope for the good times.
You mentioned employees. From what I hear, you've got an award-winning CFO. From my understanding, is Robert Zuklich.
Yes.
Sounds like he got a great CFO.
Yes, we do. We got a great CFO.
So important. I mean, you've had phenomenal growth. I mean, you've got locations all over the country.
Yes, we cover the major markets. Again, helps us help the customer. We're not just at arm's length. We're able to, at any given time, cover anybody's demands.
How many locations do you have?
We have 8 locations.
8 locations?
Yes.
None outside North America, do you?
No.
No?
No, we haven't explored that yet.
Wow. That your CFO, Robert Zurlich, tremendous how important it is because, and even in my experience, how important that CFO position is to help you guys coordinate and integrate your phenomenal growth that you've been having.
Correct. He really has helped us grow. He's not only a CFO, 3-time CFO of the year, but he steps outside the box and helps us in the operations. He takes burden off us 3, and we're able to go out and dig into the operations a little bit more and help the growth and help train a little bit. So he's definitely a major asset to the business, and he's like a 4th brother in the game.
If you don't mind, just how many employees are there in the company?
Roughly 300.
Wow, that's a lot of employees.
It is.
If you don't mind, if we could just get back to marketing a little bit in the early years. I mean, getting customers is not easy.
It's not easy.
I mean, how did it happen in back then? And if you could just share a little bit with the audience, somewhat of the marketing plan at Plycon, what it is today.
Well, back in the early stages, it was all word of mouth. We did 0 advertising. And pretty much the only advertising we do today is for the automobile side. And our customer is, whether it's a piece of furniture or an automobile, it's the same customer, believe it or not. And it's helped the Plycon side has helped the Plycar side grow from having a customer base already in-house. So it was kind of just regrouping and retooling and redirecting a similar service but a different product. So today we market. We have a gentleman by the name of Gary, helps us on social media. We do some paper advertising with a few magazines for the automobile side. Again, we attend trade shows. We do some architectural digest trade shows and things like that.
Wow. I just want to take a break and mention that here in the studio, honored and it's very fortunate, we've got Mr. Gary Duff here, is a world-class marketer and executive that's involved with your company, with Plycon. Why don't you share a little bit about Gary?
Well, Gary, why don't you come on over and talk a little bit on the mic?
No, I think he's shy. But
No, Gary's helped us. He's been a tremendous asset to us on the social media side. He's good with the camera. He puts things together for us, helps us along the way, and he's been a great help and inspiration to us.
so you mentioned social media. Unlike other moving companies, Plycon has really built a following using social media. Is that a medium you're looking to explore more? And what are your plans with that?
Well, I think the direction of the world is heading that way. So Gary has kind of got a foundation set for us, and his expertise in that will hopefully develop into bigger and better things.
So there are plenty of transportation companies out there in the United States.
There are.
What makes Plycon unique?
Well, having the multiple locations, having family, having our expertise. My brother, older brother Dean, older brother Dave, myself, we probably have 100 some odd years of experience amongst us. And we were taught by the best, and we kind of know pretty much everything there is about trucking. We understand how the trucks work. We understand how the freight moves. We understand the logistics end of it. We understand the help. We understand what the client wants. So we have the knowledge of all that, and we kind of put all those dynamics and mechanics together, and we pick things up and we put things down.
Beautiful. You know, you say that you learn from the best. Obviously, Dad,
Yes.
author. Please, you got to. It's always great to hear your personal side of memories and really things in business that you could really share. I know I there's not a day that goes by that my dad's been gone since 2000, and he was the visionary and founder of Twin Lab. And if you don't mind sharing, there's got to be 1, 2, or 3 some great classic. You said it classically. You said you learned from the best. And Dad, author, if there's just a couple of great stories of history that just will never go in your mind, or maybe your brothers, that are classics. If you're comfortable, sharing a couple of great stories, there's one that stick. I'll let you finish, but there's one with my dad. There's one classic story that I'll never forget that he did with me. But I'll let you first speak.
My dad was a great man. He was a great inspiration for all of us. He just he had good vision. Always smiled. He had a smile that would knock your socks off. Never, ever would get upset. The roof could be on fire in the building, and he would be like, "Son, relax. It's no big deal." He was just that simple. Just hardworking, and always wanted to help people. His nature was just about helping people, and we just picked up on that. Some of us have a little bit of my mom in us, and she was. Both my parents were first generation here. My background's Greek heritage, and both my grandparents were from Greece.
Awesome.
And my parents kind of knew each other growing up, and
Beautiful.
they met, married. My father went into the army, came back, married my mom, and then got into the trucking business. But he was my best friend. He was my mentor. He was the whole 9 yards for me.
Great stories, Chris. Those are classic.
Oh, the best.
They were really good. And I know we could go on and on. We could go on and on for probably another hour and talk about classic dad stories. I'm going to give you one classic of mine. This really stands out. I'll never forget it. Being the head of sales for Twin Lab. I used to, from sales reps or from brokers, I used to get a stack every week of expense reports that would come in. So back in those early years when my dad, he was very hands off, but if as far as what might have been paid paid out, he was hands-on with that, okay? So he walked over to my office one day and he said, "Son, can I speak to you?" I said, "Dad, of course you could come in," okay? He sat right in front of my desk and he had a stack of sales rep expense reports. And he reached over on the desk and he says, "I don't understand why you're signing off and accepting reimbursement for pens and pencils." He said, "Son, whenever I go to the bank every week, I put pens and pencils in my pocket. Why are you accepting that?" You know? That was probably one of the very few times ever in my relationship as my dad, my father, and my boss, that he really ever questioned me. So I know you and I could probably do a whole show
on and on.
that we could go on and on. And how did it all evolve being a family with, obviously someone has to have a final decision. So obviously there was a point where Dad had the final decision, right? Every day at one point.
For the most part, he gave us some latitude, and if he didn't see, if he saw things he didn't like, he would pull the reins back in a little bit. But he gave us a lot of freedom. But again, we had respect, and we knew what was right and what was wrong. He would let you make a mistake, but you could only make it once. If you didn't learn from your mistake, then he wasn't doing his job, and we weren't doing our job. But he would always give us tests growing up, and you didn't even realize he was testing you, but you were getting tests, and you could never say can't. Can't was not in the vocabulary. I remember I was probably 10, 11 years old, and he was asking me to come up with a name for the company and draw a paint job for the trailers on it with a crayon or something. But he was always giving us tests, and he wouldn't. If we were horsing around a little bit in the house, and he'd come walking down the hallway, you'd hear his footsteps. You knew to stop right away. But that's all we had to hear, and that was the respect. Funny story, I'll tell you. We were at a restaurant, and we're eating dinner, and the salad comes, and my father looks over to me, and he says to me, "You want me to freshen that up?" And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You want me to freshen that up?" I said, "Okay." He pulls out a fresh bag of tomatoes out of his pocket, already sliced up, and out of a Ziploc, and he puts it right on my salad. And that's the kind of guy.
That's great. What a guy.
Oh, it was great.
Hey, listen, this is your show.
It was great.
It's you have the, you want to tell another one?
No, that's, they're endless.
You sure?
It's just...
How about transition after Dad? How once again, it's hard enough,
yes,
whether you're big corporate, small company, large company, but obviously family business.
Yes.
One of 3 brothers. After Dad, transition. You comfortable talking about that? How that all came about? How the family decided transition? And at the end of the day, you guys might get into a room and you're discussing business and things that should be. But at the end of the day, don't you agree with me? Someone has to make the final decision.
Yes, correct.
You mind sharing for our listeners? It's tough enough in a non-family business. I think this is really, really cool and important. How you guys and your family made that transition.
Well, I don't know if we're over that threshold yet. I mean, there's days that you think he's coming in and he's not. But it's been challenging to make this transition. We're fortunate enough that my father set us up with territories. My older brother Dean's in California. I'm in New York. The middle brother David's in Florida. So we kind of have our territory in place. When there's decisions that need to be made, pretty much myself and Robert will make those decisions. Dean and Dave both trust me enough to know that my best interest is the business. There's no, hands down, they trust me with that. So as far as the transition has gone through with my dad not being around, it's been challenging. But again, we know what he would want, and that's what we do. We wake up today to please him today, believe it or not.
That's beautiful.
And
really cool.
I get up every morning knowing that I got to please him.
Well, let me tell you something. I have not to date met your brothers, Dean and Dave. I haven't met them yet. And I want them to know that if they ever want to come on the Dean Blechman show, they're more than welcome. But I will say that over the years, I have gotten to know their brother, Chris, and the right guy was picked. Okay?
Thank you.
You're a hell of a guy. You're a smart guy. And you have one hell of a inspiring, exciting, innovating, just an unbelievable story.
Thank you.
And really remarkable.
Thanks.
So I want to ask you, how important is that first impression from driver to unloader to the customer? How important is that?
Well, they're the face of the company, so it's very important. I have a saying: we're only as good as our last delivery. And we instill into our staff that the customer, you need to treat the customer with respect and respect their property, respect their goods. When you're moving someone, you're moving their life, you're moving their personality, you're moving their entire life. It could be in a box, and it's overwhelming sometimes. I've been on jobs where people are crying, they're leaving their home of 30, 40, 50 years, and it gets emotional. But we try to make it as pleasant as we can. And again, our team, we have some good team members that are able to relate and respect the client and make it as a smooth transition as possible.
I'm sure you're dealing with all kinds of clients and customers, and I'm sure these people are experiencing all types of things in their life. So at the time of trying to be, dealing with as best as possible to service a client, you're also dealing with a lot of different events or emotions.
Yes.
That are going. I'm sure there's all kinds of things that you, I don't know if you want to, mention all kinds of things that you could be, when that truck pulls up, you're dealing with, all kinds of stories. If you want to shed light on that a little bit.
When the truck pulls up, it's game time.
It's game time. Now, what's it like? I know a lot of your clients, obviously we don't have to drop names, but I know a lot of your, unless you want to, a lot of your clients are, these very high profile celebrities or athletes, rock stars, whoever it might be. What's that like?
It's exciting. They're funny sometimes. They don't want to. They stay under the radar a little bit. In most cases, they have a staff handling their shipment, whether it be their household goods or their automobiles. Sometimes they're on site, and you got to act professional and not be starstruck, and that becomes challenging sometimes. I know I was on a job one time moving Michael Jordan, and I was as starstruck as you could possibly be, and it took me about an hour or two to start breathing correctly.
Wow.
So, but it's challenging.
Wow, amazing. That's pretty amazing. So I assume the company policy is never ask for an autograph.
Correct, and it's a no-no.
Right.
And they get upset.
My philosophy is never ask for an autograph.
Never.
If you engage with them as time goes on, let them come to you.
Correct.
And feel comfortable. You mentioned Jordan. I had the opportunity to be in his company a couple of years ago. I was invited to a golf tournament up in Lake Tahoe, and I had an opportunity to meet Michael Jordan. I'll never forget it. There were thousands of people there, and we were introduced through somebody, and I met him. And I'll never forget that weekend. He was just, incredible, so cordial, so humble. And after the first time he met me, I remember coming out of the hotel, out of the elevator, and he, hundreds of people in the lobby and whatever, and he turned to me and he yelled out, "Hey, Dean." I couldn't believe his memory to remember my name. What a class act, and still today, besides Barry Bonds being a good friend of mine, the great baseball player, Michael Jordan, just class act, still to date, one of the greatest, if not the greatest.
Yep.
So, great story on the loaders, people dealing with anything else you want to share dealing with. I mean, listen, no matter what business you're in, dealing with customers.
When you're in the service business, you're always on. You can't be off.
So, where do you see the company going in the future?
Well, it's definitely a lot of technology coming our way, a lot of social media coming our way. The goal is at this point to get our senior staff now to start helping the newcomers and training the newcomers so we can maintain that level of service, maintain the excellence, and have our senior staff start taking over some more responsibility and hopefully become executives of the company and keep the company running. We do have some family members. My brother Dean has 2 sons in the business, so we're hoping they're going to take a bigger role at some point.
Wow.
And start moving forward with that.
Wow, that's a interesting topic. We never let children. We never let the next generation of children into the business. So that's starting to happen.
That's starting to happen.
Wow, what's
third
that?
generation?
How long's that been happening now for third generation?
It's got to be 15 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what roles do you see them fitting into?
Well, we're hoping we have Dean's oldest son just moved to Denver, and he's going to be opening a location in Denver for us. Dean's next son down, Nicholas, he runs the Plycon division in California on the West Coast. So we're hoping these guys are getting groomed up to take our roles over and keep the company going. They have tremendous respect for their grandfather. They understand the grandfather's vision again, and they're we got to get them energized a little bit and get this company to maintain its level of service as these newbies come in.
Now, I know a little bit about brand image from my past and even currently. Okay. I got to tell you this, Chris, that when Sharon and I are driving down the Long Island Expressway, we're on the road. I got to tell you this, that we see these monster Plycar trailers, monsters, big, massive, unbelievable. I have never, ever seen a truck or any vehicle so spectacularly clean like I see with your trucks. I mean, it's not like we pass it and we say, wow, that's a clean truck. We go, oh my, wow. I mean, how do you do that? How do you keep those trucks looking like that?
It's more work. More work. We got a team of guys that clean constantly. I love the equipment to be clean. That's rule number 1 for me. You got to have a clean work surface. You got to have a clean location. Everything needs to be clean. I'm a little bit of a neat freak, so I like everything to be clean. And you could see the reflection of my personality on the equipment. Our marketing is our equipment. X amount of eyes see our vehicles every day, and they all seem to say the same thing that you say, so it seems to be working.
Chris, I take my hat off to you. Your branding, awesome, man.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm telling you, some of the best I've ever seen in my life.
Thank you.
Awesome. Really, really, really cool. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the company's bombarded with a lot of people that want to advertise and market on your trucks.
Absolutely.
I mean, am I accurate that whenever I see your trucks, the only thing you see on there is your company, your brand?
Correct.
Right? You must be bombarded with people that want to.
Correct.
I assume the answer is no.
No.
Okay.
Yep.
You can make a lot of money.
I'll tell you another story. I pulled up to Michael Jordan's house and I saw the number 23 on the gates.
Right.
And when I saw that number 23, I said, he has a brand with that 23. Never mind his jump man. And I said, our P logo has to be our brand. And from that day forward, I've put that P on everything we have.
It is so hard to keep that brand.
It is. It's to
and
maintain it.
Unless you recklessly let that slip away, the value, Chris, you and your brothers, and obviously starting with mom and dad.
Correct.
Just a great, what a great story. Great brand. Really powerful.
It's been a great ride.
Awesome. I mean, what would be the reason for someone not to call your company to handle all their high-end transportation needs? What would be a reason?
Could be pricing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Amazing.
War timing. Sometimes, when someone, for instance, and someone buys a Ferrari and they want it right away and we're not there that day or the next day, they choose to use somebody else. Besides
Michael Jordan, are you allowed on the show here to drop one or two more names, or that you'd be allowed to drop? No? That you refrain? No? Okay. That's okay. Maybe Dean Blechman would, right?
Well, your family was a client of ours.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Your brothers are clients.
My brother was a client at one time. Yeah. That was a really high emotional.
Both brothers.
Yeah. That was a high emotion. One of those was a high emotional move.
Yes, there you go.
But this probably applies to Mr. Robert Zuklik, your CFO. But could you shed some light in regard to moving forward right now and into the future? Do you see your company growth coming more organically or through acquisition, or a combination of both?
A combination of both.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think acquisition is our next focus. It's something new for us, and we're looking for the challenge.
Wow. And I assume in this day and age now with home sales, how does that affect the business?
Not much of our client is affected from that kind of home sale. We're kind of more in that higher end of the real estate market, so we kind of don't really get affected with that.
Wow. So, anything else that you want to talk about, Chris?
How'd you like the snow yesterday? How'd you like the snow yesterday?
It was once again. There's just something about here on the North Shore of Long Island that they never miss us. We get clipped worse than anybody.
That was a great one last night.
A lot of snow, very wet, heavy, deep. It was just. It was a little bit trauma.
And Starbucks was closed.
Yeah, Starbucks was closed. So, it was 24 hours. You know how it is, yes. 24 hours. 24 hours with Sharon, So, you know how it is. Yes. Starbucks is the place.
Yep.
So, listen, I just want to say once again, thank you very much for making time to be on the show. Chris Pliaconis, Plycon Transportation Group, class guy, great company. And once again, I wish you nothing but great success and the very best of health.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. To all of our listeners at the show, thank you for listening in. Want to mention to everybody, have a great day. And don't forget to like us on Facebook. All our shows, including this show with Chris today, is available on our YouTube channel, on iTunes. As always, just like Chris, if you have a story to tell, would like to be a guest on the show, please, Dean at deanblechman.com. And I just want to say from all of us at the Dean Blechman Show, have a great day.
You've been listening to The Dean Blechman Show, live from Long Island, New York. From all of us here, we'd like to thank you for tuning in. We look forward to hearing your comments via Facebook, Twitter, Skype, and email. And don't forget, you can visit the webpage anytime for the up-and-coming guest list. From all of us here, have a good evening.